One day, you step past the mirror, and it reflects nothing, not because you've turned invisible, but because you are no longer there. You're walking through a white room, no windows, no birds, no sounds, except the breath you're trying to hold steady. 4 walls, covered in mirrors. And yet, all of them are blank. No reflection, no image, no one on the other side to look back at you. You gently reach out and touch one of the mirrors. Cold, smooth, tangible, but no response. You turn your head. Try another angle. Still, nothing. No eyes meet yours. No familiar face staring back. In the center of the room, a small table sits. An old photo album rests on top of it. You open to the first page, a childhood picture. Someone is holding you. Maybe your mother, maybe your aunt. Everyone's smiling, but no one's face is clear. Next page, your graduation photo. You know it's you, but your face is blurred, washed out by the light. As if even time is trying to erase what once felt certain, you flip to the final page, an empty frame, no picture, no name, no date, just a white flash of light, nameless and numb. You close your eyes, not from fear, but because there's a gentle emptiness in your chest. There's no need to figure anything out, no pressure to find yourself. Then, a quiet knock, not from a door, not from the hallway, not from outside. It's coming from within your chest. Soft, subtle, but steady. As if something, long forgotten, is still beating inside. You place your hand over your heart. Familiar, but strangely distant. You walk toward a corner. There's a small mirror, face down on the floor. You turn it over, and this time, there is a reflection. Someone is standing there, unclear, out of focus. Their face are hidden behind a white mask, and the mask is cracking. Thin fractures are spreading like spider webs. No sound, no pain, just breaking. Breaking like an old habit falling apart. You look around. The light no longer casts your shadow on the floor. There is no back to return to, only this. You, no roles, no reflection, no reason needed. You sit on the floor. You don't try to explain what's happening. You don't force yourself to name what is being lost. You simply breathe. And then, like a whisper drifting on the wind, a thought. Maybe. I've never truly lived. Then a voice, soft, barely there. Maybe. Everything you've ever been was just what you were taught to become. You don't panic. You don't cry. There is only silence. Clear and whole. And inside that silence, something begins to stir. If you no longer see yourself in the mirror, it may not be because you've disappeared. It may be because you're finally about to see yourself without any glass in the way. There are mornings when you wake up and you no longer know who you are. The room is still familiar. The pillow still smells like yesterday. The clock still ticks the same, but something inside you isn't standing there anymore. You walk into the bathroom, you look in the mirror. That face, it's still yours, but the connection is gone. You no longer feel like this is the person you've lived inside all these years. You talk, you eat breakfast, you respond politely to messages, you go to work. You still say, sure, will do, I'll send it soon. Everything unfolds the way it's supposed to, but inside, it all feels like a hollow script playing on repeat. Then, at one point, you look down at your hands, these hands that once wrote pages of a journal, that wiped away tears, that held someone else's, and you wonder, am I still here? No one around you sees what's happening, because on the outside, you look fine, only you know. Something inside you is falling away bit by bit. You start remembering the roles you've played. The strong one, the kind one who never upsets anyone. The capable one who always held things together. The reliable one, always there when others needed something. Each role, like outfits worn too long, now feel loose, ill-fitting, no longer yours. You still talk. You still smile, but every word you say sounds like it's coming from a speaker, not your soul, just a voice made of habit. One day, someone calls your name in a crowd. You turn out of reflex, but in that exact moment, you feel something strange. Does that name still belong to me? It's not amnesia. It's not confusion. It's just that name, once used to define you, no longer fits the shape of your soul. At night, you lie awake, not from fear, not from overthinking, but because something is quietly falling off you, and you can't stop it. You no longer want to explain. You don't need to be understood. And honestly, you don't want to hold on to yourself the way you used to. If you let go of all those roles, what's left of you? And if what's left is emptiness, could it be not something terrifying, but the truest thing you've ever felt? One night you wake up at 2 a.m. No nightmare, no noise, just a quiet awakening, thin as a breath, but it pulls you upright. You don't turn on the lights. You don't reach for your phone. You don't play healing music. You just sit in the dark. And for the first time, the dark isn't scary. It doesn't want to swallow you. It simply wraps around you like a warm, quiet blanket. You look out the window. The city still sleeps, but inside you, something is beginning to shift. Slowly, without a name, a feeling rises. Not exactly sadness, not quite tears, but it carries the moisture of something about to dissolve. You don't know what to call it, and you don't need to. You just breathe. Not deep, not controlled. Just breathe, for the first time, as if no one is watching. The next morning, you step outside. The wind is the same, the trees are the same. People still rush, still laugh, still stay silent. Nothing has changed. Except for one thing. You no longer need to perform. You see a child drawing messily on the sidewalk, an old man looking up at falling leaves. No one's trying to be meaningful. They're just present in their way, and you wonder, could I live without trying to become someone? You begin to remember the things that once broke you. Being left behind, a rejection, a look of quiet disdain. In the past, even thinking of them made you curl inward. But today, when the memory returns, you just feel still. Not because you've forgiven, not because you've overcome, but because you're no longer living as that version of yourself. The one who hurt has drifted into the night wind. The version you are now doesn't carry that self in your chest anymore. You stand in front of a mirror, not to fix anything, just to look softly. Like watching a creature learning to breathe. The person in the mirror isn't glowing, it isn't special, has nothing to say. And still, something stirs inside you. This is the first time I've seen a human not performing. No more forcing yourself to be strong. No more shrinking into rules of right and wrong. No need to rewrite the story. No need to rip open the past. Just this. Sit, breathe, and let yourself appear. Slowly, rough, real. When you are no longer yourself, you can begin to be present. And maybe that's where the soul truly begins. You're no longer sure where you're going. There's no clear goal, no specific desire. And yet, something is pulling you, gently, in a certain direction. No noise, no obvious sign. Just a faint current drifting along your spine when no one's watching. You're washing dishes. Suddenly a line of a song floats in from the neighbor's radio. You freeze, not because the melody is beautiful, but because something about it feels so deeply familiar, so hauntingly close, even though you don't recall ever hearing it before. You're cleaning out your bookshelf. You stumble upon a crumpled page. There's nothing written. And yet, the handwriting moves you, as if it once belonged to a piece of your soul that had been forgotten. Lately, you've been dreaming the same dreams. A forest you've never seen. A stranger who looks at you like they've known you forever. A house with a door that's always half open. But you never quite walk through. Each time you wake, you remember no detail. And yet you carry with you a feeling. Something vivid. Something real. No one tells you this is awakening. There's no chime, no cinematic flash of light. Just one truth. You can no longer live the way you used to. Life goes on. Work, messages, calls, deadlines. But you feel like you're drifting upstream. Not fast, not frantic. But undeniably, going back. One day you're standing in the rain. You don't run. Raindrops trail down your neck, soak your hair, chill your shoulders, but you don't feel cold. Instead, something inside you feels warm. It's been so long since I felt real. Not because of the rain, but because, for once, you stopped running from the moment you were in. You begin to feel everything more deeply. When someone speaks from the heart, it aches in your chest. When a golden leaf falls, you pause to watch it spiral down. When a breeze brushes past your face, you know it's not just the wind. You stop searching for meaning. You just listen. Because this calling doesn't arrive in words. It comes in vibration. There is a part of you that was never lost. It's only been waiting for you to stop running, so it can walk with you. Awakening isn't a door flung wide open. It's a tiny crack in the thick wall you built around yourself. And through it, a faint light begins to seep in. Not blinding, but warm. You begin having these moments, so still, so random, and yet so real. You're sitting in a cafe, surrounded by strangers, and suddenly you feel the loneliness of someone across the table, even though they say nothing. You walk down a narrow street. The late sun stretches across old red bricks, and you stop, just to look at the dust clinging to a wildflower. You're washing your hands under running water, and suddenly tears fall, not from sadness, not from pain, but as if your body is finally exhaling. Something is held for too long. No one sees that you're changing, but you know. You no longer need noise to prove you exist. You start speaking less. Not from anger, not from exhaustion, but because you realize most of what you used to say was just noise to cover up a silence, begging to be heard. You find yourself slowing down, less reactive, less eager to argue right from wrong, less desperate to be understood. And strangely, you don't feel weaker, you feel reborn. One day you sit beside someone you once resented. You don't need forgiveness. You don't need them to say sorry. You just sit, and you realize, I no longer need them to change for me to be at peace. This isn't enlightenment. It's simply this. You see no use in carrying old weight any longer. You start remembering small things. A childhood hug, a warm glance from a stranger at the grocery store, a cat that curled beside you. When you cried at 19. No one taught you that these were your soul whispering, I've always been here. You just weren't looking. You sit alone at night. No music, no candles, no rituals. Just you and your breath. And in that moment, your soul begins to breathe again. Not because you searched hard enough, but because you stopped trying to be anything other than what you are. Awakening doesn't come when you rise higher. It comes when you pause and place your hand gently over your truest heartbeat. One day, you see a painting, a strange violet forest with a moss-covered stone gate. No one explains it, but your heart pounds. as if you had once walked through that place. From a dream long forgotten, you meet someone, a stranger. They smile, and something inside you contracts. It's not love. It's not dislike. It's something unfinished, something ancient, returning. You don't ask them about it. You don't tell anyone. You just hold the feeling, like holding a feather that drifted quietly into your heart. From that day, you begin noticing strange things. A piece of music makes you cry, though you don't understand the words. You visit a new town but instinctively know there's a drink stand in the left corner. You speak a sentence that rolls off your tongue like instinct, and then realize you've never learned it. You start to wonder, why do I remember things that never happened? Why does my heart respond before my mind can understand? No one has the answer, but your soul nods in silent agreement. One day, you sit in meditation, no goal, just breathe. And then, images begin to surface. A dark, quiet beach with someone in white robes, a hand reaching out, saying nothing, but eyes that seem to have witnessed your soul's shattering. A tall tower with spiral stairs and an open book already turned to the right page. You open your eyes, no one is there, but you don't feel alone, because what you just saw felt more real than the world you just opened your eyes to. This isn't imagination, this isn't delusion, these are soul memories, not stored in the brain, but imprinted in the energy field that holds you, just like how you don't remember learning to walk, but your legs still carry you forward. Some things don't live in memory, they live in vibration. And now, you're beginning to align with the truest part of you, the one that has lived, been lost, been in love and returned. More than once, a door is slowly opening. No one's pushing it, no sound. But you know, on the other side of that door is not another world, but the part of you you've long abandoned. When you were a child, no one had to teach you that darkness makes your heart shrink, or that a warm gaze could bring you to tears. You just knew. Not through reason, but through sensation. Not through language, but through a living field. Your soul doesn't store data. It doesn't archive dates, numbers, or logical reasons. It records everything through symbols. That's why, when you keep dreaming of the same door, or a faceless figure, or a distant mountain you can't quite reach, that's not just a dream, that's symbolic memory rising, calling you back to what has yet to be decoded. Carl Jung referred to this as the language of the collective unconscious. There, every human experience, every pain, every journey, every belief is stored in archetypal images. The mother, the shadow, the guide, the labyrinth, the wound. Jung never asked you to believe. He simply invited you to listen to what's always been speaking to you, but in a language your soul once understood and your mind forgot. One person dreams of being chased down a spiraling hallway. Another sees a bleeding clock. You keep noticing a black butterfly landing in the exact spot you're about to leave. These aren't random. They're not there to frighten you or to lure you into superstition. They are messages, encoded in the only language the soul trusts: symbol. Michael Newton once described this as well. He said, "After death, many souls recall the same symbols: a gate of light, a soul library, a misty hill." Why are they so similar? Because these aren't fantasies, but shared memories, translated through the lens of inner knowing. Symbols don't demand belief. They simply ask you to pause your reasoning, just for a moment, and reach into the depths. You've been locked for too long. Every image that visits your dream, every emotion without logic, is a message from within, from the version of you you've forgotten, but who is still quietly alive, inside. There are phases in life when everything just stops. You can't move forward, you can't go back, and you can't explain why what once made you feel alive no longer stirs you at all. You call it mild depression, or burnout, or being lost. You start looking for reasons. Is it past trauma, unhealed wounds, planetary energy shifts? But no answer feels whole. And maybe that's exactly what your soul wants. A space beyond explanation. A moment, simply, to be still. Eckhart Tolle once said, "When you no longer know who you are, that's when you begin to touch the spaciousness, where the ego no longer obscures the soul. You're not going backwards. You're not broken. You're being called into stillness, because that's where transformation begins. Just like a tree can't grow taller, while it's still forcing itself to stretch too fast. Just like the ocean can't reflect clearly while the waves are thrashing. Your soul, in this very moment, doesn't need more answers. It needs you to sit, to surrender, to touch the ground. You don't have to understand what's happening. You just need to let it happen. No resistance, no labeling, no chasing improvement. Because maybe this very feeling of being lost is the pain of becoming. The moment the final shell cracks, so your truest self can be born. Ram Dass said, "We're all just walking each other home, but many of us must first learn to sit alone before we truly understand where home is." You don't have to meditate for an hour. You don't need to read 100 books. You only need, right now, to recognize this silence isn't emptiness. It's fertile ground, waiting to sprout something new. You're not lost. It's just the path is no longer going outward. It's inviting you inward, to the place where life has never stopped. You've just never been still enough to hear it breathing. For a long time, you believed your wounds were mistakes, things to be hidden, fixed quickly, covered up so you could go back to being normal. You said, "I'm fine now. I've forgiven. I've moved on." But in all the times you tried to be strong, you only added another mask over the wound. Carl Jung called this the shadow, the parts of yourself you rejected, your weakness, your jealousy, your pain, your disappointment, your longing to be seen. And the paradox is, until you dare to face the shadow, it will continue to control you from the dark. You once thought that awakening meant being positive, holding a high vibration, always forgiving, loving everyone, no matter what. But then you discovered awakening doesn't come from avoiding pain. It comes when you step directly into the crack and stay long enough to understand why it's there. You remember the heartbreak of being left behind, the ache of not being truly heard, the anger you swallowed because you were afraid of losing your image. All those things you once saw as weakness were gateways, leading you back to the most human part of yourself. Jung once said, "The wound is the place where the light enters you." There is no light outside of you. That will shine forever. Only the light that sprouts from within the very places you once tried to bury. You once wished you hadn't gone through all that pain. But without it, would you have slowed down? Would you have stopped performing? Would you have learned to see yourself with eyes of compassion? Your wound didn't make you weaker. It cracked your heart open, so your soul could finally breathe. After being buried for years, a wound doesn't demand to be healed immediately. It only asks you to stay with it, long enough to hear the message it carries from lifetimes past. And maybe, from the very place where you feel most broken, you'll finally see a path. No one ever pointed out to you, but one that's always lived inside your heart. Maybe you no longer feel the need to search, no desire to understand more, no effort to figure it out, and perhaps you no longer crave someone to confirm that you're on the right path. That alone might be the sign that you've just crossed your soul's very first threshold. There's a kind of person one who no longer speaks often of awakening, because to them, every moment of being alive, it is already a sacred act. They don't need to be understood, and yet, when they look at you, you somehow feel like you've never truly been wrong. They no longer ask, "Who am I?" They simply live as if their very presence. It is a quiet, living answer. And maybe one day, you'll become that kind of person. Not someone who carries a torch, but someone whose every step brings its light. If you're sitting here now, alone, with a heart softened by all that has unraveled, breathe with me, just once. And listen closely. What does your soul want to say, now that there's nothing left to hide? Did an image appear just now? A symbol, a face, a doorway? Don't rush to explain it. Just hold it gently, like a memory that hasn't found its words yet. Because maybe that's you, from another lifetime, sending you a first hello. We don't know each other. But if you've made it this far, I trust you've walked through layers that the outside world will never see. And if you've ever felt like something ancient is rising inside you, maybe you're not remembering something. Maybe your soul is the one finally being remembered.